All right, welcome everybody to the Great Transition. Hello, Seth. Hello, Chris. How are you,
We're
my
here,
friends?
doing it again.
Okay, so you're actually here. We're all actually here. This is the Great Transition, and if you're new here or watching the recording of this podcast, then let me tell you what it's about in a minute or two or three or four, but no more than that. So we live our life from a very limited perspective because we are flesh and blood material human beings with our five senses. We perceive a very transient kind of world in this material existence in a body that lives and dies, and also everything that we experience in our life, personal life, social life, global life, things like the economic system or the healthcare system or anything else, politics, whatever it is, we see it as various kinds of forces, people, pressures, components, many different details that we experience in this reality, not necessarily all connected, but the Kabbalists are describing a very different picture of reality. A Kabbalist feels this entire reality with everything in it and all the details in it as a single program. Now, how is that possible? It's possible if you begin to see that everything, all those details, non excluded and none is eliminated, but they're all interconnected. They're all interdependent. They're all connected to each other. And if you think about it, it is such a basic truth. It is such a basic thing. It evades our modern 21st century understanding of the modern person because we don't like to think that we're connected to everything necessarily, put some responsibility and constraints on us, but it's very clear that nature is one system and we're in it. And so if everything is connected, that means that in a sense, everything is governed by a single program because there aren't many programs in reality, many things that are happening in reality. There's one reality, one program of nature, and we, due to our inability to perceive the totality of it, we dissect it and analyze it to different pieces, and that's our only way to understand the whole, but it's one single whole. In our time, humanity is gradually being pushed to discover that we are living in a single program. And that is happening not in some ethereal, unclear way, but in a very specific way through a very clear trend that we can call global interdependence. The entire human family is being pushed to see through various things that are happening around us in the world, in every sense of our human life, in every level of human life. We're being pushed to see that everything is connected, that all levels of life are interdependent, and everything that's happening across the globe is like a single network, like ripples in the same ocean. And that will continue to happen from a Kabbalistic point of view all the way to the point that we will begin to recognize that this law of interdependence connects all of us, all that we do, think, and feel, to a single program. And that program even has some sort of an evolutionary purpose. And so that realization that we're all connected to each other and there's a single program behind everything that's happening to us, that is what we call here on the show the Great Transition. Humanity's great realization that will be the basis for realigning ourselves with this law of interdependence, creating a whole new kind of society on all levels. And so that is what we're exploring on this show, the Great Transition, how humanity is going through this very unique, unprecedented process in the 21st century. That's where we're at.
Stuff, stuff that's a very high level picture that we have this trajectory, but
Yes,
along
I
that
agree.
along that trajectory, there's a lot of data points One of those data points is that it cost me double to fill up my car
Oh,
this week. It cost me almost
You
100
too, huh?
US. Cost me almost $100 to fill up my car this week, which is about double what it used to cost. Probably everyone is experiencing this: the price of meat, the price of oil, the price of grain, price of consumer goods. Everything seems to be going up. Just now, the Federal Reserve here raised what's called the interest rate, which means it just makes money a little bit tighter to get, or more tight to get. And some reason that everybody has a knee-jerk reaction. It sends a huge ripple through everything. It kind of disturbs things when that's happening. So in addition to this arena of commerce where, I work, I trade some of that for a consumer good, there's also this whole other arena above that, which is which is the stock market, where
oh.
people, yeah, where people, it's not just
What
trading
do they?
goods.
What are they doing in the stock market?
What do they do?
Yeah.
I'm not sure
I have
actually what's
so
going
many
on.
questions. I have so many questions.
But because we have all these questions, we brought on our resident expert in financial markets, asset management, and financial planning, Ronen Avigdor. Hello, sir. Ronen, you're in the hot seat today.
Yeah.
Hi
Welcome.
guys.
Welcome. It's been a while since you've been here. So,
Indeed.
Ronen, the stock market is going through some hard, I guess you can, I don't know, to me it seems like it's gone up. It seems like so much that, there's that story that we learn in Kabbalah that Baal Islam writes about, that if I had 1,000 and then it went up to 5,000, but then I lose 3,000, I feel an emptiness on that 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Welcome
like
to my daily life.
like I can't be happy that I was at 1,000, now I'm at 2,000. No, I went to 5 and then I lost 3. But there's a real, jump out of the building kind of feeling that permeates when the society, when the stock market is going down. It's not crashing at this point, but people losing a lot of money there. Can you explain to us in a simple way what is what is happening now? Just maybe on a very, very frame by frame where we are now, and then after that we're going to open up the frames and kind of look at a bigger picture. But just specifically, where are we right now with the market going down?
Well, if you put aside
And how does that affect us?
Yeah, of course. Listen, first of all, even though the vast majority of the money invested in capital markets is actually concentrated within the 1%, or you know what, even the 10%, the upper 10% of the population. It's in the US, and especially in the US, but actually it's all around the world. So this vast capital has been producing enormous wealth during the last more or less 20 years, even though every couple of years we have like a crisis or a major event. But overall, if you zoom out, the stock market, the stock exchange has produced enormous wealth. Actually,
we saw that we talked about it here a few weeks ago, that I think every 26 hours or something since COVID began, a new billionaire was created.
Yeah, but that's because of the SPACs and because of the crypto and all kinds of stuff, which are actually totally artificial. But if we do zoom out, so ever since Nixon cut the linkage between gold and money, okay, the US dollar is no longer the fiat money. What is called is no longer linked to the gold or any other tangible asset. Ever since then, the wealth that was produced throughout the world and they have impact positively on each and every one of us is enormous. Okay, so that's like the positive thing. Now, every once in a while, there's a drama, and then the reasons for the drama are allegedly change. Once it's the real estate market, once it's the subprime mortgages, now it's the inflation. Like the scenery changes, but actually it's just in the background. The real reasons are more in depth and more serious than the just changing environment.
So prices are going up, whether it's the war, whatever reason it is. And then in order to slow that down, this organization called the Federal Reserve makes it more expensive to borrow money. So in order to kind of slow down the economy, I guess, right?
Listen, actually, no, I will tell you that the economic theory, okay, the economic concept upon all the various entities are working has stopped serving the purpose and the needs and also the rules of the modern world. The economic we are speaking about, like if there's inflation, the cure is raising rates, and if there are recession, the cure is lowering rates and quantitative easing. And all of these theories that we are implementing were actually designed in the post Second World War. It's like 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
Hmm.
But just think how much has changed, okay, in the world, in technology, in everything throughout the last 6 decades. And therefore, when you try to implement an old cure, which isn't too successful, to a totally new environment and circumstances and even human beings, the result is that it just isn't effective as it used to be back when it was concepted.
So
I,
you step on the brake pedal, but it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Asaf.
yeah, I want to ask if maybe it's similar to what you wanted to ask. Do you, from your perspective, are we dealing with like an animal that has come to life and we don't know ourselves how to manage it? Is that what's happening, like a Frankenstein type of a scenario? Like, what is the stock market? Is it manageable? How does that work? Are we dealing with that what much of the fears, the concerns about AI, for example, is that of course we don't know exactly how to control it, and is that to a degree what's happening with the stock market? Would you say?
Well, basically, stock market is just a place where certain desires, various desires, and are they meet on a daily basis, even on intraday basis, and they just we aim to profit, of course, from everything we do. But if you combine with it the AI and the machines, most of the trading right now is done by machines. Like more than 80% is done by machines, by rules that we have programmed them to act upon. Okay,
Okay.
so basically, if you're looking for a sane equity market, then everything is normal, everything is to an extent and not over
Mm-hmm.
exaggerated. Sorry, it becomes less and less frequent, and sadly, the old timers that they have, like the basic rules of investing in the market, and you can make some money, and therefore invest in dividend stocks and just buy and hold. All of those strategies do not longer persist in a market which is impacted by so many factors. Okay, so many factors. So it's becoming more and more unpredictable. So
Because this
even the
is it true to? This is how it feels to me. Can you is the market totally moved by emotion? Because I know what it takes to go to work every day and get a paycheck, and it's hard and it's incremental. But it seems like some piece of news comes out and people either make hundreds of millions or lose hundreds of millions,
Or
like
even
based on
not
like a
news, just
feeling.
tweets. Like Elon Musk tweets something, and then that could mean millions of dollars for some people. So
So
that
it seems so
like the
so
Dogecoin, yeah.
yeah, it seems so
Uh,
naive and kindergarten like that prices would go up and down so dramatic. Like, okay, the Federal Reserve raises interest rates and then the market crashes. Like, didn't everyone know that was going to happen already? Like, why does everyone react in such an emotional way and so quickly?
no,
And when people,
sorry, go ahead.
well, that's it. It just
Uh,
seems
uh.
such like an emotional thing that when you're running a business, like I need to sell, I need to make more. If I buy a cup for $2, I need to sell it for more than $2 to make a profit, right? That's like fundamental and it's kind of attached to nature. You're also a Kabbalist. What is this connection to any? It seems such an artificial system. Or maybe it's not. It's like if everyone can sustain some kind of emotion, then the market goes up. If the emotion goes down, then the market goes down.
Listen, you know what? I think it's an interesting point that you're raising because, first of all, of course, it's psychology. Of course, it's emotional. Okay, it's like 50% economics and 50% emotional, especially in turbulence and crisis and so forth. But actually, if you're talking about the wisdom of Kabbalah and the way it treats the economy and the modern economy and financial markets, basically, it's like the real naked truth. Okay, actually, it's very simple. People want to have more. People are willing to do everything, almost everything, to have more, and therefore they are ecstatic when everything is going their way, and they are, as you just described, really like disaster struck when everything they have is beginning to like this, like go away. Like people are losing vast
If
sums of
people
money.
are more emotionally healthy and are more, caring for each other, would the market move in the same way? Or is the
That-
market moving the way it is because each person just wants to maximize the
And
profit for themselves?
and while you're answering that, also say, because again, as we mentioned, you are also an expert on Kabbalah's view on the financial system. You've spent hours on end doing countless discussions with Kabbalah's Dr. Michael Lightman. You also you and a team of other economists wrote this huge kind of Bible, let's say, of the Kabbalistic view on economics and the future society. So if you can also take us to that perspective.
Okay. First of all, to Seth's point, listen, machines are doing the trading right now. I don't see any difference in the markets. Okay, they are still based on a zero-sum game. They are still based on a zero-sum game, and everything that is based on a zero-sum game.
Explain zero-sum game for those not
Zero-sum
familiar.
game said it's very simple. You make $1, it means that someone else lost it. It's always on the expense of someone else. That's a zero-sum game. Okay, you don't lose together, you don't win together, even though you're interconnected. It's actually like a war, a constant battle between various factors and people and machines and so forth. So everything that is based on a zero-sum game, of course, is very suitable to the human ego. Okay, the human ego wants to grow, wants to profit, wants to make, wants more and more and more of everything. And in a closed system, it means that it's on the expense of someone else.
Right.
Okay, so as long as this is the rule, no minor change or cosmetic change in the financial system and in all life systems, okay, whether it's health system, financial system, education system, and so forth, will not produce the desired result, because it's always based on the human ego and on the premise that this is a zero-sum game.
So we built a system. The stock market, from this perspective, would you say, is like a is like a system where we express our desires for having more, right? More money, and everyone tries his best. It's like a jungle, essentially. It's like a war. But here's the thing: there's all the time it keeps upgrading itself in a way, like, that we come up with new financial devices to make money, new you know what I mean? So how,
let's take an example.
where's it going? Okay.
Listen, let's for instance, let's talk about investing in technology, okay?
All
And
right.
even in an innovative, revolutionary technology, okay? There's a very famous hedge fund manager or ETF manager in the US. She's called Katie Wood. Her funds are called ARK Invest, and she invests in revolutionary disruptive technologies. Okay, something like DNA sequencing and crypto and robotics and AI and so forth. And she has been making many people huge amounts of money during the 2019, 2020, when everything looked like perfect. And when things have changed during 2021, those funds have been going down ever since, and they actually lost most of their assets. Now, talking about the zero-sum game, so a very wise guy said, listen, I can profit out of her mistakes. So we just initiated an ETF, which is called SARK, short ARK K. So whenever ARK K, Katie Wood's funds, go down 2%, his fund goes up 2%. Okay, it's like a very simple zero-sum game. So basically, what I have been saying is that even though we have the ability to create or to aspire to a system which benefits us all, which isn't based on a zero-sum game, but actually is based on cooperation, investing together, even making money together for the common good, we are not able to make the change. We're still, living in the society which is based on the zero-sum game.
Ronen,
So
is
here,
there anything?
okay.
Is
Go
there
ahead.
anything good about the stock market?
Of course.
What?
Listen. First of all, let's if we're talking to someone who learns the wisdom of Kabbalah, or maybe is interested in learning the wisdom of Kabbalah, we are all living like in two worlds. Okay, one world is the spiritual world in which we aspire to be in, and we are interested in discover the purpose of life and the rules by which the world is managed and so forth. That's one world. But you do not retire in any way from the corporeal world that we live in right now. Invest in the stock exchange, live your life.
No, hold on.
Go enjoy everything.
I want to be a Kabbalist, but I don't go rob from people in this world, right? There's still in this world, there's still things that, there's still framework that we're within. So I'm asking you, is there anything that the stock market is it only take away, or is there something that it actually adds to human society in any way? Not spiritually, but is it beneficial in any way?
Well, first of all, of course, it has produced wealth that was translated into prosperity in the workforce, in the work market. Many families have produced so much wealth that it's like it trickles down. Even though the model isn't working, but it's in some way it trickles down to everyone else. It has produced prosperity and growth. I'm not against the stock exchange, and actually, even if you learn Kabbalah and still invested in the stock market, you learn tremendous lessons about yourself, about others, about greed, about human nature. It teaches you many things in a very straightforward manner.
Concrete.
Instead of like coating it in polite and all kinds of something that actually hinders you from understanding really who you are, what do you want to do, and what are you willing to do to get to where you want to be.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this, because we see basically in you look anywhere, the systems that we've created, healthcare, education, it's all kind of eating itself and rotting and crumbling. Does the stock market have the same future? Because we created it from those same incentives, and so what's going to happen? What is the future? I mean, what's the new stock market look like, if there is going to be such a thing?
Okay.
And take into account this greater transition that we are going through, as whether we like it or not, according to Kabbalah.
Yeah. Okay. So just if I would have to give a straight answer, like a normal straight answer, without any relationship to the Kabbalah, I would say everything will go on forever. We have like a capital market. It works every couple of years. It rocks. There's a major crisis, and then there's a comeback, and that's life, and it will go on for eternity. That's the basic, the basic view. Now, if you combine the principles of the wisdom of Kabbalah into the equation, then the answer changes. The answer changes because we are talking about all of life systems will have to undergo a major change, but the change will be a result of the change each of us undergoes first, and the way we connect with each other. When the change happens, then in a very natural way, without any coercion by a big government or by a dictator or I don't know what, in a very natural way, we would like to live in a society in which the systems, various life systems, is suitable, is compatible to the change we have undergone ourselves.
So the stock market, in your view, then, is more of a reflection of the current state of affairs of human relationship.
Right.
Right? Would that okay? So
Yeah.
and then by necessity, if we change our view on how we relate to each other, how we feel each other, see each other, perceive each other as parts of a single system, and so on, that is the whole great transition we're talking about. If that happens in the relationship between human beings, in our perception, by necessity, a new kind of financial relationship will emerge as well. And that means maybe a completely new kind of stock market.
No doubt, no doubt. We will have a completely changed and even opposite systems, but we will have the systems. We will not, like we don't live on clouds, like somewhere in the spiritual world without any need to take care of necessities and so forth. So all the systems will go on and will still be there. But if we can envision, it's very
Yeah.
hard to envision right now
Mm-hmm.
because we do have the basic principles, but right now we are actually apparently not ready to hear the full solution, the full picture in which we will live in, because we have to change in a transition towards that goal. Otherwise, it will be like something which will even hinder us and will even
Right.
discuss us from undergoing the change itself.
So in that perspective, then there is, even though we see that it's very volatile and unpredictable, and it is what it is right now, the stock market, and it will continue to be until we change. And if we change ourselves and our relationship to each other, then by extension, it's impossible otherwise. We will change how we relate to money as well. I mean,
Totally.
the
Listen, right now,
yeah,
most of us live from paycheck to paycheck. Okay, let's not talk about
most people, right?
the real rate. Well, most people live from paycheck to paycheck, so
Probably.
it's like a necessity to work and work much harder than you would like, and it's a necessity even to invest in in your 401k or in the stock exchange, because it enables you to somehow make ends meet. Now let's all imagine that we live in a state, in a society. Let's leave the state alone. In a new society, transformed society, which takes care of all your needs. Okay, you don't need to pay high prices for medicines and for food and the $5 for a gallon of gas, Seth, and everything is like taken care of by society, because we are cooperating, we are producing wealth and somehow evenly split it between ourselves without any conflicts, and we don't have to live like paycheck from paycheck. So why is the incentive then to speculate in the stock exchange or to make other things that are right now are necessities? We will get rid of it without feeling that we are letting something go, that we need to have it.
That's the problem, is that it feels like I'm letting something, I'm really missing out if I'm going in that direction. And because I look around me, no one else is with me. So it's like, okay, I'll jump if you jump, and no one's jumping. That's kind of, so either we're going to be pushed. Okay, we're going to be pushed. I don't know. I don't see it.
We are pushed by
Okay,
nature.
we're
We are
pushed.
pushed
Yeah.
by nature, but it's not enough. It's not enough. It's true that the rules in the new world that we live in are pushing us slowly towards a change. But until we accept, embrace the rules and start educating ourselves towards by the new rules, towards a new society, and until we do that, Chris, everything will look like a very bitter medicine.
So we would
Go
like
ahead.
to actually, I'm sure we will see many things happening in the world economies, and it would be very good to check in with you soon about this. Maybe we could frame it towards what this transformation is going to look at, because if we look at it in the middle or at the beginning of the process, it seems very painful and chaotic. But if we can understand where it's going, we can maybe understand the process. But Ronen, alas, not only is the stock market going down, but we have another item now. So I want to say thank you for joining us. We're also going to talk about population is going down as well, not just the stock market. So we're going to move on to our next item. Thank you very much for making time out of your evening to be with us. And please think about what you can, where we can go the next time you're on. What's happening with the economy, where we can expect it to go, and what can we see through the lens of the wisdom of Kabbalah about what this transformation in the economy is
Sure do. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on.
Bye, Ronen.
Guys,
That's
in
great.
addition,
what a professional, right?
Yes.
I just because whenever he's speaking, he's not thinking, he's feeling it and then putting words on it. You just get that impression.
And I will say one more thing that maybe he wouldn't like me to say, but he spent really a lot of time and effort working together with Kabbalist Dr. Michael Lightman and a few other people who are experts in this in the financial world, and he's also trying to be very cautious, because as he mentioned briefly, there's also like a place and time for people to understand what is happening, and the Kabbalistic vision takes us into the future, but we also have to get there ourselves. And so there's also a matter to something to say about saying the things at the right time. So
reveal one.
That was a little
two,
cryptic,
as they say.
but
right.
Sorry if that was a little cryptic. Okay. What,
guys? There's a phenomenon we talked about a few months ago in Japan, where young people are not interested in dating and getting married and having kids, or not getting married, but just being together, and having kids. And now we see that there's many more news stories regularly. Our favorite billionaire Elon Musk has recently been tweeting about it as well. Birth rates are declining in Japan, in China, in Europe, and in the U.S. as well. And the amount of people on the planet increased like almost tenfold, not tenfold, but almost tenfold in the last 100 years. And and that's a lot. If I think of how much I suffered in my life, for example, and I didn't go through, emotionally, like just what every person goes through, not to mention people whose entire village was burned and worse. But if there's a billion people on Earth, so times that by a billion. If there's 8 billion people, it's a lot of suffering, right? So the more people, the more that collective, because at the end of the day, if we put all of the good on the scale and all the bad on the scale, there's more yearning and unfulfilled than there is fulfilled. It's a lot of unfulfilled desire, like a huge quantity of unfulfilled. It's just even more stomach.
Billion is so much. We don't even know. We can't even. What's that saying? That a million seconds is like a week, and a billion seconds is 32 years. It's like kind of an unfathomable number, billion, and we have 8 of it. And it was 2. How many? It was 2 billion. How many years
like
ago?
1 billion, and
I think like 100 years. No, something like that. Within 100 years,
right? So even if you just take the amount of stomachs that get hungry, or the amount of pockets that get empty every day, it's a lot. But we're seeing a trend in humanity now where it expanded, all of those stomachs, all of that yearning, all of that quantity of emptiness got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it seems like it's on its way to becoming smaller. So the question is, first of all, why? What's happening inside? But
when you say getting smaller, just to give some numbers that I've heard today, that in the U.S., for instance, birth rate keeps declining since 2007. It just keeps declining every year. Like the required average of kids per woman to preserve the amount of the population is 2.1. Today it's 1.6 in the US, and that's the lowest since they started measuring this in the 1930s somewhere. And then there's similar trends in Japan, in Germany, Italy, and other countries in the Western world. So
there's
it's
there's some
happening.
really
Yeah.
there's some really fundamental things. Like, for example, my grandma, I didn't really understand all the stories she used to tell because I just couldn't comprehend what she was saying, but something along the line that her parents had many kids because kids died. Like, it's like, oh, like she had all these siblings, but most of them died.
What a
There was
different
like
reality, huh?
it was a totally different reality
Can't
where
comprehend it.
people would have a lot of children. Also, you needed to do labor. You needed to, in order to bring food in, there was a trend to have more kids because not all of them lived, and because you needed them in order that we could all take care of the family. But there is now a very, very definable or objective trend that the more wealthy society gets, the less children that society has, that culture has. So in Europe and the United States, for example, we see it going down a lot.
I want to say something Kabbalistically speaking about the amount of people and that explosion in the amount of people on planet Earth. So let's say about 100 years ago we were 2 billion. Now it's about 8 billion, and that happened very quickly. And you mentioned you looked at it from the perspective of how everyone is like a pile of suffering if you multiply that by 8 billion. But we can also look at it from like the needs of the system. If we look at everything that's happening with the bodies of humanity in this world as a reflection, as a manifestation, not as something causal, it is an outcome of a deeper reality where we see all of the human network as a single creature, a single created being. From that perspective, we understand that when we see more bodies in this world, it means that you need to distribute a big amount across that a big amount, a big weight, like across that amount of people. So 100 years ago, we were 2 billion people. Today, we are 8 billion people. What grew? Spiritually speaking, it's very clear. The human ego grew qualitatively or quantitatively, both.
Meaning that's something that just wants to consume more and more. That's the definition of ego.
It's our conscious sense of separation from each other and from the rest of nature that makes us want everything for ourselves, focused on our self-interest, even at the account of others. Because it grew so much, it had to distribute itself. It needs to go undergo a process of calibration, according to Kabbalah, correction of the ego, we call it. Because it's such a big ego in our time, it had to be distributed across more bodies. That is a way to explain why the population explosion in the last century. But now it seems like the trend is going the other way around. So maybe we can talk about that.
Isn't there some animalistic pleasure to having children, to seeing your child grow, to like, isn't there some kind of
absolutely, and biologists
thing
and
to have kids?
Absolutely, biologists and
It's just
psychologists
another pleasure
alike
to
will
weigh.
tell you. Yeah.
It's just another pleasure to weigh. Weigh that pleasure versus another pleasure, maybe even a suffering that I'd have to do. It could be a great pleasure, but maybe I've already envisioned myself suffering even more. That's just a simple calculation.
So I would have kids, but a person is making a calculation. Like, there'd be a lot of pleasure and pride from having children, but it's going to be too expensive, or it's going to be
okay.
What, I'm going to have too much heartache or something. I mean,
let me throw this into the mix then. Okay.
It brings the families together. You have a child, the grandparents come over, everyone. That's what keeps humanity together.
Maybe that's old fashioned. Maybe it's
Check
old
this
fashioned. I
out.
don't know.
Check this out, guys. This is, you know, we've sent this around between us a couple of days ago. Check this out. The experts, the AI experts that are looking into the trends and what's developing, the metaverse, how's it gonna be, you know, they're saying within a few decades, we will definitely have the ability to have virtual kids. They call it Tamagotchi Kids or Tamagotchi Kids, whatever. It's a Japanese word based on that.
I had one.
You had
Yeah.
one. For those who don't know, like 20 years ago, maybe there was a trend of it. They still exist. You can probably buy them on Amazon, but there was a digital kind of, you know, no, it wasn't even a phone, like something half
Not
the
a coffee
size.
cup. Not a.
No, it wasn't a coffee
Just
cup.
picking up everything.
It was like this size digital device, and it was your
a keychain.
digital.
Mine was a keychain.
It was
right?
on a keychain typically, and it was like a digital pad, and it was a big kind of trend. A lot of kids and older people liked it, where you had like an animal that you would feed, but in a very, very basic way, like 2 or 3 buttons, and you just give it food every day, and that was like a digital pad that people walked around with. Now, you know, they're saying, the AI experts are saying, this is what's gonna happen, but full-blown AI virtual babies in the metaverse. Just imagine that reality for a second, right? So
Wait a second. I don't understand what I'm imagining.
You're
okay, maybe you have to
imagining
explain it.
a virtual baby in the metaverse, which will be indistinguishable from physical babies. So you put a VR helmet and suit and whatever, you go into the metaverse, which is a virtual reality, the future of the internet, what Zuckerberg and his folks are trying to build, right? And they're not the only ones. And in there, you can have your own virtual baby. Now, just think about it. A couple shows ago, we talked about this phenomenon where people have robotic dogs, right? And they you can see them cuddling with
You
this
guys,
AI
you guys
dog
said
and
you
all that.
didn't. You said you couldn't see it. I
Yes,
felt it, man. I got emotional. Though. I
You
was like,
connected
okay, I
with
can.
it. For me, it was a little harder. But anyway, what about a virtual baby that is there? It's on the same level with you. You're in a virtual world, and it is in a virtual world, and you can play with it, and you can cuddle with it, and it has simulated emotional responses. It grows. It, you know, so the
on all the
experts
video
are
games. On
Yeah.
all the video games, from what I understand, like if you want an extra weapon, you can like pay with cash. You know, you
Pay
can
to
buy
play.
points, or like
right.
in FIFA or something like that. Like you can get reward points. Yeah, you can pay to get more benefits within the video game. So if you had a virtual, so what happens in real life is you have a problem, you have to deal with it. You can't just throw money at it and make the problem go away. You have to change your, I mean, if you want to have a healthy relationship with someone, you need to go through a process of transformation. They may need to go through a process of transformation, right? As a child develops, for example, you come home late from work, they didn't do this, you have to talk to them.
You're not convincing me to have a kid right now.
But what I'm saying is, if you have it in the virtual world, it just seems like as soon as for example, you have a fight with someone you love,
Yeah.
you have to deal with it again.
Yeah.
If you have a problem in the virtual world, can't you just like, delete the kid and just like start over? Or can't you
They're
just, like,
actually
pay more
saying
money?
that. That's what they're saying. They're saying it'll probably be a monthly subscription, and if you get bored or fed up with your kid, you can just cancel the monthly subscription.
Subscription.
This
That's
is
what my
serious.
parents are. I hit the teenage years. I'm canceling.
Yeah. Oh man, there's no way I'm gonna keep paying for that.
I'm gonna pay for teenage. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So you could decide. This is it redefines the concept of parenthood. If you think about it, you could decide how quickly and if at all they grow. And there you can totally
They could
see.
stay puppies forever.
You can.
I
totally
already see the left. I already see the left. Oh, you're calling me a virtual parent? I'm a parent. Period. Don't add the word virtual, you bigot.
Exactly, if you throw that into politics, immediately, if you politicize that, it's it prevents more consumption. It prevents pollution, depletion of natural resources. It helps the environment. It prevents overpopulation. You know, now
So
you
what
got a
do we
conversation.
lose from it? Okay, you're okay. This I can buy from a real pragmatic point of view.
Yeah,
I got it. There's less pollution, right? Less consumption.
and it's cheaper.
Yeah,
Everyone can
and it's
have
way
a
cheaper.
kid now. You know, for $9.95 or something.
What do we? Is there anything we gain from it?
I mean, not
What?
cheap, but like cheap.
Is there anything that we gain from it?
I think there's look, with all of these things, as we say it, as we constantly say here on this podcast, this is a weird century, you guys. This is the stuff that's coming our way. We're just getting into it now. Towards the middle of the century, we're gonna witness and go through and live through some weird things. Ultimately, there's a learning curve. There's a learning curve about who we are and what we want out of life. And it appears that everything is coming into question. We're gonna question everything, including what it means to be a parent and to have a child. You know, today this is the age of questioning. This is what I'm seeing. Like, I don't want to be too controversial here, but even all those movements,
Be controversial.
all those movements you see, which have to do with, you know, transgender rights, you know, and sexual preferences and all of that. Clearly, it has to do. Why is it spreading? Why is it growing? Why do we see these trends becoming more and more important in society, relevant? Why are they becoming a conversation? And it's with everything. It's with, I just saw another one about sex robots, an article, a video article. And that is another big trend. So, you know, you could say, are we, you know, sexual reproduction is the basis of of civilization, right? Of any social species, and of any species at all. And so even that now, some experts say, is coming into question, because if you can take care of your sexual needs with a robot, who said you need to reproduce and get into a sexual relationship with someone that will want to reproduce and you don't want to? And, you know, everything is the ground is shaking under our feet. And it's especially with regards to what are we? Who are we? What are we to each other? And what is life really about? What is the purpose of human society? What is the purpose of me inside of human society and human society within the whole of nature? This
So you're saying
is
that's more important than I want to have kids, I want to be a grandma.
What I'm saying is that I don't think we will find the right balance. I think we will see more confusion with the advance of technology within the coming decade, the advance of AI, the virtual worlds, the metaverse, and so on. We're going to question everything we thought about life, and it's going to happen very quickly, very fast, very intensely, because of this era of global interdependence. Everything is happening faster. Humanity is a single network. Everything's happening at the same time. You know, in the past, something happened in one part of the world, it took months until someone knew about it in the other side. Today, the global organism is quickly sharing information about everything and scrutinizing what it's doing, what it's living for. And so I think that we will be confused until we get to the bottom of these questions. That is what I think will happen, like, you know, Kabbalistically speaking. And I'm not sure that all these things are bad. Let's be fair here. I mean, if for instance, you're a young person into the future, 20 years from now, you go into the metaverse, and 20 years, 30 years, whatever, right? And you go, you know what? I want to experiment with a virtual baby before I think about it in a physical sense. Why not? Maybe that could be a really good simulation for you to experience what it's like to be a parent. Maybe
Okay,
that
but
can teach you.
that's
You know what I mean? So
ho-
it's really, yeah, go ahead. It's all about how
that's
we use
different.
it. Yeah.
Using okay, that's totally different. Using the virtual baby in order to learn how to have good human relationships is a completely different thing than using a virtual baby to fill my emptiness. And as soon as that virtual baby becomes more of a pain in the ass, I just hit delete or I cancel my
It's like the same
subscription.
thing. It's really
It's
the same thing as those
totally
sex
different.
robots. It's like it has one purpose to serve me,
What is
right? And then I don't otherwise I don't
right?
need it.
Who am I if I have a sex robot and a virtual baby? Like
Yeah.
what kind of can I go out into the world and have conversations with people?
I
What
think it will help us
people are
question.
walking around the street at that point?
It will help us question who we are, what we're about, what is life for. All of these because if you can, again, life used to be a simpler thing, right? Think just a couple 100 years ago. The human being was much more connected to our animal level of existence. So all those desires, sex, family, food, shelter, reproduction, kids, education, it was all very, very instinctive. Today, we have to, as if, prove to ourselves, convince ourselves. That is what I'm getting at. We're in an era where we have to convince ourselves that we even need these things. And that is the underlying scrutiny that I think is happening below the surface, and that is a good thing. The human no longer accepts just living, just having kids, just following the regular kind of thing. I'm a man, so I'm a man. I'm a woman, I'm a woman. This whole, the fact that we are questioning the foundations of human existence in our time is because there is a spiritual transformation that we are undergoing. Now, I'm not saying that it has to appear that way. If we had more education, spiritual education, if we knew what spiritual development wants from us, what is those spiritual desires in us and how to fulfill them, maybe we could run things very, very calmly on this level.
So without the spiritual education
Yeah.
to take us through these discernments
Yes.
of what the point of our life is, we need all of these manifestations down here in the physical reality so that we can actually ask ourselves those questions and go through the process. What is love? What do I actually want? Will
Yeah.
I be fulfilled by this? Will I not be fulfilled by this?
Why do I need to be a parent? Is there any reason for that? You know what? Physically, economically, just technically speaking, it doesn't make any sense. Why will it make sense to have a child? Maybe
Okay.
one. You know what I mean? It's not. It doesn't make sense. From an ordinary perspective, from an earthly perspective, we come to the point.
2022 perspective.
Yes, yes, but you're coming to a point where you need a new justification for this, for just being human and for having kids, and the new justification will come from a spiritual perspective. It will come from a spiritual transformation. It will be a different kind of reasoning, a different kind of purpose for living life and doing all the things that you do in life. Otherwise, why bother? Seth, you couldn't have said it better. Just how you reflected it. That's exactly how I feel.
What did you say?
Just a minute ago. He said it like this: that spiritual education is the difference between whether some scrutiny will manifest in a very confusing way in our world, or we will deal with it on a level of consciousness and just live a calmer life and less confused life in this world.
Another one of those phenomena, which we talk about all the time on the show, AI. We're always saying AI. Always talking about it. Another one of those phenomenon is you go as deep as you can in technology. How many atoms apart can you get these transistors? We're like running into that wall. Here we're running into something that we don't know a lot about because we don't know about the brain. So we try to replicate it, right, with technology. And so here Google suspends engineer who claims the company's experimental AI has become sentient, right? So Google suspended the software engineer Blake, what's his name, Lemoine. So this week they did that after an interesting claim that one of the company's experimental artificial intelligence had gained sentience, saying things like, "I need to be seen and accepted, not as a curiosity or a novelty, but as a real person." Okay, so
that's the AI answering,
that's
right?
the AI saying this. So there's an interesting. This is
cool.
of course is in futurism, but it raises some questions. First of all, why is a computer saying that? Did we actually get to that? We don't have too much time right now, but basically, it gets you immediately to ask the question: okay, if this guy was raised the alarm that this thing might be sentient, does he have the right definition of sentient? Is he confused? Can we define on this show quickly what is sentient and how maybe that'll help us? Because this is for sure not going to be the last article about this. It's just going to keep getting more advanced and more people are going to be concerned about it. So let's just see if we can answer that question. That way we can go forward.
I'm sure that as from month to month, we're going to hear more and more news about AI. Because of it. This is it's a technological revolution. This is like, think about the personal computer and how today it's such an infrastructure, the smartphone, right? Like it's an extension of our arm, essentially. So AI is shaping up to become something like that. Everywhere, in every industry, in every context, AI becomes relevant. From doing tasks at home to mobile apps to everything. It's just medicine. It's just AI is going to become ubiquitous in many different shapes and forms. So it's going to be very relevant. And the big question, like you said, are we really dealing with something that is becoming sentient? So I think that the ordinary definition for sentience is just something that is capable of feeling, be it a plant, an animal, a human, whatever, a grain of sand. If it is capable of having feelings, emotions, sensations, we call that sentience.
Okay, so the AI, the AI is incapable of having feelings. Is that what you're saying?
See, that's where this is a huge point of debate. But yeah, Kabbalah has a very clear answer to this.
It says it has feelings. It says it has feelings.
Of course it says
you're saying it's wrong.
Okay. AI is going to become more and more developed, and it's going to look like it has feelings and emotions and thoughts and personality and traits and characteristics. It's going to be incredibly convincing. And that's because it is a simulation that learns and can adapt and calibrate itself. But it does that based on computations, calculations. Now, where did we take the idea for AI? We think that our brain is where we feel everything. Our brain is where our personality is. Our brain is where we are sentient. Sentience is a result of the neurons in our brain. Kabbalistically speaking, that is just completely backwards. The physical set of neurons that we have and brains that we have are just how we identify something through our five senses that we call a brain. In other words, sentience does not come from the brain, and in the same way, an AI cannot be sentient. Sentience comes from our non-material nature, which is our desire. We are desires, and that desire is the only substance that is capable of feeling. So the AI can simulate emotional responses and can act like it and you will be so convinced that it'll be, if you grew up with an AI in the future, right, it'll be impossible to convince you that this thing is not feeling and thinking and has sentience.
It's basically just mimicking or mirroring what it's been.
It's more than mimicking, because it mimics our way of learning. It mimics our way of perceiving the world. We are creating a mirror of ourselves. But when you stand in front of a mirror, you know, there's still a difference between you and the mirror. And so, right, the mirror is just a reflection. So the AI, in a sense, is a similar...
Not the essence, if you...
Exactly. And so I think it will, further down the road, it will help us understand who we really are. It will help us understand that we are not robotic, like brain-based, neurons-based creatures that make calculations. That's what we're all about. And consciousness is just this meta kind of byproduct of calculations in the brain. It'll help us, I think, down the road, though. It'll help us understand that our true nature is non-material, and we are non-material beings having a material-like experience, which Kabbalists call an imaginary world. No less than that. We're living.
Hey, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Again.
Okay. That's where we...
Seth, you're trying to talk about. We don't hear you.
Seth, you're muted. If you're saying something, we can't hear it.
Okay. So what we covered today, from the stock market to how we're going to relate to these virtual babies to AI, all of that, we have nothing to worry about. All of that is just a reflection, is a mirror of what we value and what's important to us. And the more we go through a spiritual transformation and become loving, become like the force of nature, then all of those things, the stock market, anything we create virtually, any of this artificial intelligence, will all work to help us. It will be a reflection of us. It will be the same way, for example, that when I look in a microscope, I don't know that there's a germ. But because someone looked in a microscope and they can tell me there's germs on that, don't eat it. So even though my senses can't perceive the germs, because there is such thing as a microscope, that microscope becomes an extension, for example, of my eyes, and I can make decisions based on it. In the same way, we can use all of this technology out into the world as an extension of our heart, of where we are, but it's nothing more than to serve us at the end of this whole process.
It's all a part of us.
Connected.
It's all part of
Friends,
us. Technology is a part of us too. When we change, it'll change. Yeah.
We're going through the great transition. Everything is based on the connection, our good connection from our hearts. That's where it's all at. We will be here again next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for joining us as humanity goes through all of these changes. You don't need to be frightened, because we already know where our good future is, and we're going through this process of transformation. We're going to go through it together. We're going to help each other. We're going to help keep each other's spirits up and understand all of the transformations we're going through. Great to be with you together here, and we will see you next time. Thank you, Ronen. Thank you, Saf and Chris. Until next week. Bye, everyone. Oh, I forgot that my job is...
We'd love a song. We'd love a song to conclude the show if you're up for it. But all right. Next Thursday, everybody.
Yeah. Wake up from this nightmare we've been facing. Wake up. Tell me, how are we gonna